Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. Dada, with the latest WWE edition of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and we are indeed here to break down everything that happened in WWE over the last week. Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, and beyond. We will cover it before this episode is out. Co-host Vintage Chris Vanini is here along for the ride as always. Before we get to him, we need to get to this, and that of course is a reminder that the Getting Over Wrestling podcast
is all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King, for Vintage, for Getting Over in its entirety. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read them live right here on the show. Also, do not forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show on YouTube. You can listen to the show. You can watch full-length video interviews. Hit the link in our profile. You can join our free Slack channel. Tons of conversation during and between major wrestling TV shows and pay-per-views. You can also subscribe to the show, shop on WWE Shop, and so much more. Make sure you follow us on social media. Hit the link in our profile at Getting Overcast. Vintage, we have a loaded show today, as we always do. You and I are also bumping up against football season, so our lives are particularly crazy. Is there anything you wanted to get out there as a note before we get into the proceedings on today, Tuesday, August 25th?
Is this an opening to make a shameless plug?
It was not, but yes, you can talk about. I was gonna delay it until week 1. I thought I was gonna do it myself and kind of bring it up for everyone, but you can go ahead and do it now. Sure.
I'll do it now just because we got a message in the
Do you ever promote our show on that show?
Yeah, when I had Trick Williams on.
One time in the history of the podcast is what I'm hearing.
Well, it doesn't cross over so much. So
I think
yeah, well, I just because someone mentioned it in the Slack
go ahead.
A couple days ago. College football season's here. If you want a college football podcast, I host one called Bunch Formation. Me and David Oven. It's just him and I on our own. No big company. It's an independent show. We've been going into year 2 now, having a lot of fun. More people finding it. Someone in the Getting Over Slack just messaged about it the other day. So wanted to promote it here with football here, but that's it. I'm here to talk about wrestling.
But apparently you won't hear promotion for Getting Over on that show. The show Silver King hosts promotes Bunch Formation. The show Vintage Chris Vanini hosts does not promote Getting Over. Also,
yeah,
Silver King's never been invited on as a guest to talk about Florida. I don't know that there is a person who knows more about the Florida Gators than Silver King. And I don't know. No invite. However many years it's been going on. Interesting.
I talked to John Summerall the other day on the phone about something.
He would know more about
You'll like him.
On the phone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought you meant on the show.
I will say, when we get to WrestleMania season, I do mention ex-football player wrestlers on the show and have promoted the show there. So, yes.
Yeah, let's do a little bit more cross-promotion there, Vintage, okay? You got an outlet just like we have one here. And we got to get more listeners for the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. But no, seriously, Bunch Formation, great show. Make sure you subscribe. Available just like Getting Over wherever you listen to podcasts. And the YouTube channel and social media is actually built out a little bit more than we have for our show. Again, Vintage, spending more time on college football than wrestling, which you just got to criticize him for it. And that's exactly what we're doing here, of course, tongue in cheek. Plenty to cover from WWE on today's show. Before we get to all of it, Silver King does want to lay out the weekly schedule here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast because it is about to be busy. Obviously, we're here Tuesday with your WWE episode. We're going to be back on Wednesday with a special NXT and AAA episode. Ultimate previews both for NXT Heatwave and AAA Ola de Calor. Then on Thursday, we'll have your AEW All In Ultimate Preview. And that all proceeds Sunday, where we will have instant analysis for NXT Heatwave, AAA Ola de Calor, and AEW All In. The order of operations for Sunday, I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. The shows are going down simultaneously. I'm going to try to watch them at the same time, or at least get a large way into the WWE product before the AEW show starts. So all of that remains to be seen. Just know that you will get instant analysis for 3 special events for your ear holes this Sunday, and it will be a 5-episode week here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. At least it's happening now before football season begins. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about here when it comes to the professional wrestling world, WWE specifically. As you know, the main event and the good, the bad, and the ugly, both of those are coming up.
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
And while we did address this last week, I do want to update the Ilya Dragunov news item. As we suspected, early reports are that the disagreement leading to Dragunov's non-renewal with WWE was more based on money than creative or anything else. Getting Over cannot confirm as much at this time, but it stands to reason that they were so far apart financially where it did not make sense for WWE to keep putting someone on TV if that person was not going to re-sign for a figure they deemed appropriate. As I explained last week, WWE featured him significantly and regularly upon his return from injury. He was also featured heavily during his initial call-up until he got hurt. To that end, I'm somewhat shocked there was not like injury time added to his deal, especially since WWE seemingly wanted to keep him on the roster. This report became another hot-button issue over the weekend. Folks who apparently struggle with critical thinking didn't realize that, sometimes athletes and teams can have wide gulfs in perceived value, and WWE certainly had Dragunov on screen enough to determine the level to which their general audience cared about him. Certainly could have been booked better. Most wrestlers can be in every company, but he was not booked poorly. Unlike pro sports, we won't know what he wanted, what he was offered, what he might take elsewhere from a financial standpoint if he signs with another company. So it's going to be impossible to judge which side winds up being more correct in their evaluation of his value. But I did want to follow up that conversation with a bit more information around the topic and to give Vintage a chance to chime in on Ilya Dragunov no longer being part of WWE.
Based on the obviously the reasoning out there, it's understandable. This is, remember, a WWE that earlier this year has had discussions with wrestlers about taking pay cuts, and other people have departed over that. And that ultimately just happens sometimes. It's unfortunate. I think it's pretty clear WWE's been trying to make cuts on the wrestler salaries part in 2026. But that's ultimately, again, why it's good to have other companies out there and have other options out there, because that ultimately helps the wrestlers find what they feel they deserve. It's unfortunate. Dragunov in NXT was incredible. His matches with Gunther, 2 of the best matches in WWE of the last 10 years, at least. And to never have gotten that on the main roster is incredibly disappointing.
Yep.
He did get US championship reign when he came back. Didn't go too far, and then other people stepped up and had other spots. So it's unfortunate. Really, with a lot of these, when some of these cuts happen, it's unfortunate to feel like they never were able to highlight the best of somebody, and it feels like a wasted chance. And that's what this one feels like.
Yeah, I mean, if Dragunov had gone back to Raw rather than get moved over to SmackDown, we might have seen him with Gunther and Sheamus and Rusev and some of these guys that we really wanted him to wrestle. And instead, because he was on SmackDown with the roster as it was comprised at that time, we did not get to see many of those big time matches that we legitimately thought were possible. So, that's why I'm so disappointed about it. If he ends up going to New Japan or AEW, he's going to have a great wrestling career. He's an incredibly talented performer, good promo, awesome in the ring. But there's also like the matches that you really want to see. And when you learn that those are now not a possibility, that of course can be frustrating as a fan. Bianca Belair revealed she is currently battling postpartum carpal tunnel syndrome, which I did not know was a thing, but I researched it, and yeah, it affects thousands of women every year. While the Mayo Clinic says that usually resolves itself within a few weeks to months, not only is it another obstacle for her, it's directly impacting the hand she is already rehabilitating. Not that a return was expected anytime soon, but still, that absolutely sucks. Continue, wishing Bianca as quick a recovery as possible, both for herself and her pregnancy, just her life, being able to utilize her finger and her hand. And of course, everyone wants her back in the ring as well. Matt Cardona tore his triceps late last week. He'll be out at least 3 months if it's minor and no surgery is required, 6 to 9 months at best whether it's a greater tear or surgery is required. Obviously, not the most significant loss, no offense intended to him. SmackDown feels overloaded with main eventers. It's lacking mid-carders. The opposite is true for Raw, so perhaps something will happen to that end. I also wonder if there's maybe something to do with him on screen, almost in like a house husband type of role. Like he supports Chelsea Green as champion, carries her bags, does some of her bidding. That would really catch on if they're able to execute it properly, and it would keep him on the road and on TV. I don't know what you think about that, but that's the first thought that came to my mind.
Yeah. Well, my first thought was it could make sense storyline because he got embarrassed in such a way by Gunther that then disappearing kind of makes sense from a story perspective. But the opportunities with him and Chelsea, with Chelsea as the champion, do provide that. We've seen Chelsea get hurt and find other ways to be useful and be entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
And, Chelsea's got Tiffy around, so maybe that's the thing. But there's no reason you couldn't do some fun, interesting stuff with Chelsea, him in the background, that doesn't take away from the shine Chelsea's getting right now. But yeah, really unfortunate for such a great moment for this couple. And then to have this happen is tough.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cardona's entertaining. I think you can find a lot of different things to do with him that is not wrestling. Frankly, him wrestling is probably the least of the interesting things you could have him do. And I mean that as a compliment. Like he's a very creative guy. He can do a lot of things.
Yeah, completely fair. WWE on Monday began a week-long set of tapings with 3 consecutive taped shows airing before Sunday night's main event on September 6th. I will reiterate, that show should have been called Sunday Night Heat. Massive miss, but I digress. This Friday's SmackDown was taped Monday night, which was unfortunate because Ottawa was once again a total shit crowd, arguably the worst in Canada. Toronto and Montreal blow it out of the water every single time. And now on Friday, this coming Friday, they're taping both Raw and SmackDown next week in Cleveland, which should be okay as a crowd. As always with taped shows, you should temper your expectations. The lone real frustration is that the finals of the Lucha Libre tournament will be taped and not live. And just for posterity, we do not read spoilers. I have no idea what is going to happen Friday on SmackDown, even though it's been taped. What we discussed today will be analysis from the past 2 shows only, nothing more. But that is the schedule moving forward. Overall, WWE had another, let's call it, consistent week. Both Raw and SmackDown were a step back from last week's super strong episodes, but neither had any glaring issues other than some annoyances that I personally had with the men's mid-card on both shows. I did attempt this week to truncate TV match breakdowns and only focus on impressive, unique, or important sequences, with exceptions made for the top match on each show this week. I'm going to see if that can trim our taping down here on the episode a little bit, especially as we get into fall. The football season screws with our wrestling schedules, and Vintage, of course, prioritizes college football over wrestling. I'm joking. It's his full-time job. So with that, it is time to break down everything that happened on WWE TV this week, and we're going to kick it off, as we always do, by sliding into the main event.
This is the main event.
Sami Zayn opened SmackDown ranting at Nick Aldis backstage, calling the scheduled WWE Championship match an injustice and wondering when he will get his opportunity, especially considering how he got screwed by Randy Orton's interference last week. No lies detected there. Orton moved in behind Zayn at the end of his rant, only to immediately get called out to the ring by a screaming Cody Rhodes, who appeared to be wearing an homage jacket for Dusty. As Orton exited, Aldis was already in the Arena Bowl trying to calm down Rhodes. Randy repeated his words, saying they have a scheduled match in 2 weeks and they don't need to go at it beforehand. Cody tried to goad him into the ring, so Aldis went into like kindergarten teacher mode. He instituted a no-touch rule, with the consequence being never again receiving a WWE Championship opportunity. Orton tried to goad Rhodes in kind, saying he proved last week that he doesn't have killer instinct. He's just a good guy, a golden boy, the American daydream. Rhodes retorted by acknowledging Orton may well go on to win multiple more world titles, but he said he would always be there to kill the legend. And that's not a prediction. It's a spoiler.
That's cool.
Well, holy shit. That is some tease right there. Talk about injecting life into the product. Cody potentially turning heel with Paul Heyman as his advocate would be quite something, and it has been alluded to now across multiple prior interactions when they have referenced their close ties over decades. Back in May, if you remember, Heyman said to Rhodes, quote, "Sooner or later, they all need the wise man." Now, of course, it's far more likely that line was a swerve. Cody making a promise after saying he learned lessons from heroes, friends, and enemies. Heyman, of course, being a longtime enemy from whom he learned a lesson. If you were going to pair these two, one would think you don't hit us over the head with it, especially considering the switch that we got at the tail end of Raw on Monday night. Swerves are okay, though. The problem is you cannot tease a swerve with Cody and then just have him continue being a white meat babyface. The swerve must be into something else, given Rhodes does need to be refreshed to some degree. I'm not a huge fan of the no-touch clause, considering we've been remarking about endless pull-apart brawls over the last couple of months. But if this was all just trying to put an end to all of that, maybe it has some value. I wish he would have said as much. Hey, there's been brawls on SmackDown for 3 months now. This is getting out of hand. I'm instituting a no-touch rule. All 4 involved in this segment were on point. Sami continues to raise the rent each week. His complaints, being legitimate, only hammers home his position, and that's what makes it such high quality.
The Cody part, well, first off on the no touch, completely agree. We said it on the show last week that there have been so many pull-apart brawls, so many instances of security having to come out. Acknowledging this up front, I liked it. And yeah, could he have explained it for that reason? Yes, but I do like having that. It adds a little bit more intensity, a little bit. Cody's like a great promo. We know that. Mm-hmm. But when he's angry, he kind of only has one speed. He's like always up to an 11. Mm-hmm. It doesn't always just like get there when he's upset. And this is like what, 3-4 weeks, 2-3 weeks in a row, it feels like.
Yeah, he goes
just out in the ring yelling.
He has 6, maybe 7, and 11. He doesn't have 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah, and so I'm just like, it doesn't mean as much when Cody's been kind of doing the same yelling the last couple of weeks in a row. And I was just kind of like, okay. And then he says, the one who kills the legend killer is QB1. And when he said that, he got booed. He was getting booed when he says this. And then he says, that's not a prediction, that's a spoiler. And everybody goes, ooh. So I was like, okay, interesting way to finish the promo. I was intrigued. However, I am in the same boat as you, where it feels like it's too obvious.
Right.
And we've seen it many, many times with Cody, where he hints at going heel, he leans into booze a little bit, but doesn't do it. And nothing ends up happening. If he was going to have Paul Heyman join him, I feel like that would need to just come out of nowhere in a moment, the same way it did with Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns when they were on that couch during COVID. You just pan over and he's there after Roman
even
says the
Seth
word.
Rollins at WrestleMania 41 to a degree.
Yeah, so, is what it is. Ultimately, I thought this was good. I think Cody should turn heel and would be a great heel. He's still kind of getting booed in this Randy stuff.
Yeah, and he's going to. Now, look, for those wondering, Sami does have a legit fracture that is being nursed, which is why he's not fighting. But going back to this Cody and Paul situation, right? What would you think about going 4 horsemen evolution style and not having Rhodes turn heel necessarily, although both of those stables were heels, but giving him a small faction? They can operate as tweeners. They can, focus on the money and the suits and the championship pursuits and all that type of stuff. And they can kind of go back and forth, but I just feel like it would add so much to his character. Heyman, I don't know the role he would fit in that necessarily. Just maybe an advisor to them, someone who knows all the legends and can kind of guide them as they go through whatever they're trying to do. And it doesn't have to have a thematic, element to it. They don't all have to be Southerners or all, potential world champions like Evolution was. But I do believe there's something to the concept, especially when you consider all the factions and groups for the men. I'm saying this, I'm trying to confirm it in my mind at the same time. They're all on Raw. So there's nothing left on SmackDown in the way of a group faction stable, someone running roughshod over the brand. I feel like if you put Cody in a leadership role for a group like that, it refreshes him entirely. It avoids a heel turn, which WWE doesn't want to do. It creates a merchandise churning machine. People are going to buy the shit out of that stuff. And you can elevate some people. How about, I don't know, Carmelo Hayes being part of that as the young up-and-comer, and then you add one or two more people in there. To me, that's super interesting as a concept. What do you think?
Well, one might say you pair Cody with some younger talent and he presents them as the future of the company because that's the vision that he has. That would be the only issue, is you're kind of redoing exactly what the vision just was. And everybody said, well, hey, no, have Cody do
the vision.
I'm going to come back. I'm coming back to this.
Okay.
Everybody says have Cody do a Four Horsemen. The Four Horsemen beat up Dusty, put Cody on the other side. Makes all the sense in the world. I like it. The other option is a dangerous alliance led by one Paul Heyman in WCW in the early 90s that had one stunning Steve Austin as part of that group. If you were to include Heyman, that's what it would be. I just feel like, and I felt like this with the Vision, I said it many times, I didn't think they needed Heyman. And I thought he kind of took away. And if Cody were to do some sort of heel faction, I think that's a great idea. I just think you don't need Heyman there if you do that. So
yeah, I think it would need to be,
I don't know.
I think it would need to be a combination of the two, because the Dangerous Alliance, and I was not a huge WCW fan, but like the names I remember are Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, Larry Zbyszko, Steve Austin, to your point.
And Rick Rude and Medusa. Right.
And then Paulie was the like leader. And I think for a while, Michael P.S. Hayes was part of it as well. But like, you know what? I may have just run through the whole group now that I think about it. But the point is, there was not a Cody Rhodes there.
No.
So that's why it's almost taking like the best parts of Dangerous Alliance, the best parts of the Four Horsemen or Evolution, whichever one, and then kind of combine them and make that this group. But the reason
that's kind of what the vision. That's kind of what the vision.
No, but the reason why it's different from the vision was 100% about reshaping WWE in Seth Rollins' vision. That's why it was called that. This isn't about that. This is about winning championships and getting rich. I mean, it's a completely different motivation. But you could take Ricky Saints, Carmelo Hayes, Cody Rhodes, and you need one other like more significant name probably. I don't know who.
Someone else from AEW too would make it. You can't do Royce Keys. We'll get into that.
Yeah, you can't do that. I don't know who the other person would be.
Ethan Page or something like that. Ethan Page would be fun.
Man, Ethan Page would be incredible in a group like that. If you did that with Ethan Page, I mean, it's people are going to say, well, Silver King, those aren't major stars. The point is to make.
You're getting me all excited.
I know the point is to make stars. By the way, I wouldn't like this nearly as much. Okay, but you could even throw Damian Priest in there, put him in a suit, and he's the muscle of the group, and it visually would work. My point is, they don't have to go heel with Cody. They don't have to make Heyman his advocate and have them operate as a duo. They could still align them or not even align them and create something interesting and different for Cody moving forward, where he can quickly turn back pure babyface, the snap of a finger when the rest of the group turns on him 6 months, a year, 18 months down the line. It's so obvious of a direction for him. And I think you and I kind of broke out how it could be achieved.
Yeah. Turn him heel. Like it will be better for Cody long term.
Well, I'm just saying you don't.
I'm just saying for Cody, they keep teasing heel. They teased heel again. At some point, you got to do it.
Eventually, you do have to turn him heel. But I'm saying with this, it doesn't have to be a heel group in this iteration.
Oh,
it could be a tweener group where. Yeah, they fight baby faces.
No,
and
I'm done
heels.
with tweener. I'm done with tweener groups and tweener wrestlers. It's the biggest problem in WWE right now. I hate it. Be a baby face or be a heel. Be a heel. Cody, go be a heel.
Then they'd be heels that get cheered because no one's booing that group. And that's okay too, if that's what you want. That's the problem with WWE and wrestling really in 2026. No one wants to boo the heels because a lot of times the heels are way freaking cooler than the baby faces. Hell, that happened during the Attitude Era too, but at least there was still some real concentration on bad guys being bad guys. So yeah, even if they tried to be heel, I don't know that it would actually work. But all right, let's put a pin in that. We'll move forward in this storyline on SmackDown. CM Punk got booed backstage as he shrugged off the home field advantage offered by Toronto, saying Kevin Owens is stuck in his head fighting imaginary battles, whereas he has grown and changed for the better. Orton interrupted that interview as well, warning Punk that he would be coming after the WWE Championship once he embarrasses Rhodes in his hometown. Owens was later interrupted in the same spot by Finn Balor, who was pleased to see him healthy, but expected a heads up from his friend when he returned at SummerSlam. Gunther stepped into their conversation, telling KO he has a legitimate chance to win in Toronto while calling Balor irrelevant, acting as if he wasn't even there. Balor then pulled the Orton, saying he would be waiting on the other side of the title victory. These were just setup segments following our conversation last week about the main event division on the men's side being ridiculously stacked. There were 5 real contenders coming out of the Punk Owens match, and all got a chance to be contextualized in that way in segments like this. These worked to that end. The parallels were well done. And man, SmackDown all of a sudden feels so ridiculously fresh on the men's side.
Yes. Good stuff from Punk there and all, KO and Finn going back and forth. A lot of we know that KO and Finn are like really, really good friends from when they first went to NXT together. Gunther jumping in there, that you need those cross feud just interactions to make the show feel alive. That was one of the greatest things that Triple H did when he took over as the booker. And the last couple of weeks, we are seeing it more, and it just makes the whole show a much smoother watch.
Indeed. WWE Championship, CM Punk, Kevin Owens, main event of SmackDown. The bell rang with 22 minutes left. Owens was heated, ranting from the second he walked out. Punk entered in a hockey mask. I believe it was a reference to Heat, and they nearly came to blows before the bell. The referee and Mark Nash actually had to separate them. KO was all over Punk, the champion getting booed relentlessly. Punk had a beautiful neckbreaker counter to an early stunner attempt. Triple H used to do that to Stone Cold Steve Austin back in the day, so it was definitely an homage. And he worked Hulk Hogan style, getting booed during the break. Hollywood Hogan style, excuse me. But they interestingly received dual chants at parts as well. Owens went crotch chop, cannonball, before frog splashing Punk through the announce table off the barricade and hitting a swanton bomb back inside. Punk got a second wind after leapfrogging a pop-up powerbomb, ranting into the camera that Toronto hasn't won anything in 60 years because the dude always has to make a sports reference, especially in a hockey town.
Well, it's about hockey because they won the NBA championship a few years ago, but hockey, yes.
Yeah, if he's in a hockey town, he's making a hockey reference if he has any opportunity in the camera, every single time. Then Punk mocked KO with a crotch chop from the top rope before an elbow drop with an Anaconda Vice chaser. Punk firmly got heat from that point forward, and cameras made a point to catch that sentiment from the crowd. Owens caught go to sleep with a sharpshooter counter for a rope break. Punk avoided a stunner, seemingly pushing Owens into the referee by accident. Owens then countered Punk into the ref. I thought it was on purpose, except he had a stunner and tried covering with no one there to count. As he stumbled around, KO fell into a Punk GTS, which was a weak spot comparatively, again without a count. Sami Zayn ran out of the crowd, throwing Punk into the ring post and tossing him into the ring before ducking below the ring apron to hide as Owens hit a stunner. Zayn sent the ref back into the ring for a 2.99 false finish, then revealed himself to Owens when he threw the WWE title in front of him. KO grabbed it at first, hearkening back to his first Universal Championship win, only Universal Championship win, then declined and shoved it into Sami's arms. So Zayn clocked his brother in the head with the strap, allowing Punk to hit another relatively weak GTS to retain the title. My initial reaction was disappointment. Not because I expected it to be squeaky clean with a real result or a title change, but rather because there was so much empty time in the last stage of this match, and neither of Punk's GTS finishers landed well. Both were extremely soft, but Owens sold them like his power cord got unplugged, which was great. Every other element of this match was excellent, though, and Punk's 2.99 kickout was top tier beautiful, as perfect a false finish as one can execute. The fans 100% believed the title was changing. Someone in the arena, a friend of mine, told me it was a deafening reaction, that kickout. Considering this was a first meeting between Punk and Owens and a TV title match, it's more acceptable than it would have been, let's say, as a PLE main event or a high-intensity rubber match. But there's no telling if or when we will get this again, and there was a lack of satisfaction with the result, given it was so overbooked. Plus, how the hell was there zero effort to send a backup ref to the ring? Wasn't Aldis being a stickler at the opening of the show? While I've mostly focused on critical aspects, This was an insanely high quality match, terrific main event between a couple of guys who were wrestling each other for the first time in their entire careers. Punk turned into a heel early. He stuck with it throughout. That was needed. He did great focusing on the neck time and again, putting the announce table back together, which was funny. The call back to Owens' first title win, not cheating this time around, was perfection as well. And the final 16 minutes of this match were commercial free, which was fantastic and necessary. I want to see these guys fight again. I want them to get 25 to 30 minutes. I need the CM Punk Kevin Owens match, the singular match that we can go back to 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now and say, man, I need to watch that again. This was a really good first step. It cannot be the only one. 4.25 stars A.
Man, I loved this. I loved every part of it. I'm kind of surprised you were as negative as you were, even though I know you said you liked
not negative, critical. Two different things.
Critical, sure. Like the whole thing, like Punk coming out, he comes out in the full hockey mask that I thought was supposed to be like Jason, but it's not the old school hockey mask. I loved that his shin pads were Chicago Blackhawks hockey socks. Like the perfect stripe. It looked, everything about it was just like really, really well designed. I love that. I love the intensity of the beginning of this. Like you said, the referee, Mark Nash, having to get in front. Like I felt the intensity between these two guys before the match in a way I don't often feel. And it kind of reminded me of Charlotte Becky a number of years ago, when there was a match that you could just feel the intensity between these two people that was real, but they put it into a wrestling match. That's what this felt like off the beginning. Match itself, everything going on is good. I liked the quote-unquote overbooked finish because we got such a good false finish out of it. That 2.99 kick out, that got me. Like that's what I always want from a big match. The moment where the guy who loses, you think he's about to win. And it's essential to every big wrestling match to have that moment, and they did. I thought Kevin Owens was going to win when the referee got thrown back in there by Sami Zayn. And the fact that he didn't shocked me. And that is the greatest feeling as a wrestling fan. And then to have Sami get involved in the belt and all that stuff. Not only was it similar to Kevin Owens' first title win, this whole finish was very similar to his loss to Cody on Saturday night's main event. When I think it was Saturday's main event. When he had the win clean, but didn't get it because the ref was knocked out. And then he gets hit with the thing and he loses. The difference is he turned heel after that moment and attacked Cody afterwards and took the belt with him. He didn't do that here, further solidifying that Kevin Owens is the face in all of this.
Right.
And yeah, like it wasn't a 25, 30 minute whatever, but I thought these guys did a lot of great work. I thought the finish was really good in a way that it got me. And that's what I want when you want kind of a convoluted finish. I love this. I thought it was really good. I want more Kevin Owens, CM Punk. It seems like we probably won't, given the Sami thing, but also he's hurt, so I don't know. But for this being the first match, I thought they did a lot in really put Kevin Owens in a good spot in defeat.
Yeah, they can always fight again in the future outside of this feud. 9 months from now, year and a half from now, they feud again over the WWE Championship or the World Heavyweight Championship or whatever the case, or over nothing. And they just get into a feud and have another match. That's all I'm saying is I don't want this to be their only match one-on-one in their careers. Because to this point it is, and both of them are well on the other side of 40, right? So that's the point I'm making. I just want to see, I want to see the match between them, not a match between them, even though a match between them, this one, was excellent.
And we did get a video package, which was great. I always want those for championship matches. And they had the photo with them in Ring of Honor, which was interesting because they never acknowledged Ring of Honor in the promos, but they were able to get the photo and were willing to use it with ROH right there.
Yeah.
To show Kevin Steen and CM Punk back in the day. Very nice touch. I think that added to it. That was a good video package. They properly, again, the level of intensity for a TV World Championship match sometimes is not that high. They made it high, and that made everything feel bigger.
Do you think it was the most intense TV title match since 3 Stages of Hell? Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre?
No, because we'd seen Cody and Drew so many times. It just naturally didn't feel fresh. This was literally the first time with
I'm
these
not saying
guys.
fresh. No, I said intense. The most intense.
No, I know, but the freshness of it all just made it feel more intense for that reason.
Because they were getting their
wasn't like,
hatred
oh.
out for the first time, and we hadn't seen
Yeah,
it
it was
before.
like all this whole interaction, every move in this match, we've never seen this before.
Right.
And that just naturally creates more intensity. But yes, the 3 Stages of Hell was up there. Trying to think, we've had some others. Sammy, no, that was a pay-per-view.
They had Sammy and
But
Punk on Raw, which was great. It just wasn't really intense. It's not how I would describe
Yeah, no, it was in Chicago that helped. But yeah,
That's
it's
true.
hard to do. And but they delivered, because again, I'm surprised it wasn't a pay-per-view match. I'm surprised it wasn't a Sunday night's main event or something.
Mhm.
But you do it in Canada. You've got the crowd. Like it all worked.
Great crowd. Top tier crowd. One of the best TV crowds of the year for WWE. They were awesome in Toronto. Just to clarify, and then we'll move on. You don't really grade matches like I do, but was your grade higher, or would it have been?
What'd you give it again?
4.25. A.
Yeah, I probably would have given this probably about the same. Probably about 4.25, 4.5 right in there.
Yeah, so really the only difference is I was just stating some parts of the match that I found worth criticism versus just glossing over it. I'm not saying you glossed over anything. I'm just saying I wanted to point those out, basically. But
Yeah.
I loved this, and it was excellent. I just want there to be the match between them. And I don't feel like this was that, given the finish, given that it was on TV, there was an early commercial break. I want the 25 to 30 minute main event banger where they leave it all out in the ring, clean finish at some point. Doesn't have to be in this feud. At some point in the next year and a half, I would like to see that match. Zayn, after the bell, leveled Punk with the title as he was mid-celebration on the ropes. Then, as both guys nearly got to their feet, Sami hit Owens and Punk with the belt a second time. KO sold it like he was Peter Griffin falling down the stairs. Immense. I think he even contorted his body the exact same way. Sami held the WWE Championship in Punk's face, screaming about how it was stolen from him, and justice would not be had until he regains it. It was a bit surprising how deep WWE went with positioning Zayn as a heel, considering in Canada, he was initially cheered even as he was cheating for Owens, but perhaps that was the entire point. If fans see that even Canadians are booing Sami, he's firmly fixed in that alignment moving forward. He got so much heat at the end of the match and in the post-match walking backstage. It was crazy to hear 5 digits worth of Canadians all hating Sami Zayn, despite the reason being that he's obsessed with the WWE title, and he's completely in the right to feel the way that he does. There's still 8 months until WrestleMania. Plenty of time for him to have a change of heart. This also means there's a move back into the KO Sami feud, which is really overdone, even if the promos and matches are always great. It shocks me they're going right back to it less than a month after Owens returned, especially considering it was also his exit feud. We're probably looking at a triple threat sooner than later, but still, I was enjoying the Friends at Odds booking we got the last couple of weeks. I hope that would continue a bit longer. I'm just loving this justified heel character Zayn is portraying. It's not that dissimilar from how McIntyre was positioned previously. He's executing it just as well. I badly want Sami to show the conspiracy tape that he was working on years ago before he joined the Bloodline. You combine that with what's happening to him now, and there is so much freaking material. But Vintage, I did want to just take a moment to put over Sami. The way Canada treated him was awesome. And I mean, if you questioned when he dropped the title in 8 days or 9 days, whatever it was, whether he would win it back, hopefully the booking ever since tells you, yes, it will be happening, most likely at a WrestleMania.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
He's the main character of the show.
Right, but is he going to turn face in all of that, or is he going to win it again as a heel? What's most interesting here with Sami KO is has it ever happened where KO is the face and Sami's the heel? Like normally it's the other way around every time they've
I believe it did when he was in the Bloodline.
Oh, that's true. Well, did they ever fight each other when he was in the Bloodline?
I thought so.
Like, I guess he was the bad guy, but he was also kind of the good guy in the bad guy group. I don't think it's ever been this clear. Like, people weren't booing.
He was
Sami
the comedy in the group.
Yeah. This might be the first time really in WWE that Sammy's the heel getting booed with KO as the face. And that opens up interesting possibilities because we know these guys can do great work together.
Here's all I'll say. They fought 20 times in WWE, twice in NXT. KO was the heel both of those times, 18 times on the main roster, dating back to, what am I looking at here? 2016. So a decade, 18 times in a decade. There's got to be occasions in there where KO was the face and Sami was the heel. Got to believe so.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Oh, you know what?
It's interesting. It's a different dynamic.
One of these, he was a guest referee. So 19 total matches. Let me correct that. 17 on the main roster. My bad. Regardless, excited to see what happens there. One real quick note. No Johnny Gargano this week, including in Sammy's backstage segment where he again hit another water bottle. This Friday's taping, I mentioned it earlier, it's in Cleveland. I wonder if we finally see him escape the planking gimmick in his hometown. Don't forget, they debuted him or returned him in Cleveland. So it's quite possible that happens. Just wanted to put that out there. Let's move over to Raw. LA Knight opened Monday Night Show calling Roman Reigns a coward, wondering how to contextualize Reigns successfully defending the title on his own, yet needing the entire bloodline to shut down Knight, and then creating a tournament format that specifically prevented him from competing. Solo Sikoa got bubbling appreciation as he came out of the crowd dropping a pair of yeahs that Knight allowed before cutting Sikoa off from doing his whole tagline. He gave him a warning shot. The Usos interrupted, promising consequences for the Samoan spike. Jay fired a warning shot, so Solo did a full Matrix avoidance. Corey Graves called them the one. That was awesome. Really pissed off Jay even more. It led to a tag team match. So the best way I can share my perspective on this segment is to say that there's a huge gulf between being funny and trying to be funny. This was quite try-hard in that regard. Rhyme not intended. Knight didn't have much content in his promo. Then Sikoa came out, tried to get his stuff over, but he kept pausing for reaction, which didn't work because pew, pew, pew is not really a call and response type of catchphrase. The fans aren't really going to do it with you. They have to line it up somehow. It requires a setup. So they overdid the attempts to work it into the segment, and the only time it did work was when Jay fired and Solo was able to react like Neo, which was incredible individually as a moment. So while, yes, it was a fun promo battle, no doubt, for me, it was far weaker than recent Sikoa segments because it felt more forced and less natural. But the general concept of Solo completely burying the warning shot is great, and it makes it even funnier when Jay does it. Beyond that, I understand why they have Solo enter through the crowd, but he either needs to do it across from the hard cam with a spotlight on him or some music coming out like Jay. Otherwise, fans don't realize he's there and they don't pop for him until like 30 seconds after he finally makes it on screen. They just need to work on perfecting that, which one would think they would do in production meetings. Apparently not. Overall, the segments still hit and Knight and Sikoa remain funny together.
This reminded me, I found a hilarious TikTok last night of Solo Sikoa. You know that song, I'm Riding Solo?
Yes.
It was set to clips of Solo from last week's episode of Raw. Really well done edit on TikTok. I'll send it to you after the show.
Okay.
But like people are really kind of buying into this. And so it makes sense to open the show like this with these guys and lean into all their stuff. I liked it, thought it was good. Continue that momentum. It's much easier or it's much more effective when Solo throws to LA Knight for a catchphrase than the other way around.
Exactly.
So I think that's maybe the thing to work on. But these two guys continue to be great together. I like that Jay is continuing to do the warning shot bit, even though Solo is like making fun of it. You need to you need to do it even if it's just, I know it's partly to set up Solo doing the Matrix thing or whatever, but it's important for Jay to keep doing it, even though it was actually a Jimmy thing that Jay stole, which
well, you have to have the reference material. The reference material can't disappear.
Right. So it's a good bit from Jay that even though Solo's using it to get himself over more, Jay should keep doing it even on his own because I think the whole thing's a good bit. So fun opening segment. Without Roman, what are you going to do on Raw? open and lean into the guys who are really popular right now.
And it's the same thing with Knight doing like the Ufalafa thing. That doesn't work if the Ulafala is not a regular part of the programming. And it was. They were both wearing the captain's ones on the show. So you can reference it as long as it's there. But it has to be great for them internally within the family that like younger brother Solo has taken something Jay thought would get over after Yeet and completely turned it on him and just like he's clowning his older brother with it in reality. It's very funny. And I would love to hear from him, like how that's been received and like maybe even how their kids are taking it and stuff like that. That'd be really interesting. The Usos backstage told Jacob Fatu to chill, considering he didn't help at all last week. Jacob snapped, reminding that Reigns told him to stand down, so he followed those orders. After calling Jay a punk ass again, the Usos flexed their new Captain Ulafalas, speaking of those, saying they call plays too, and Jacob is staying his ass backstage for the main event. Sikoa again thanked Knight backstage later in the show, promising to get his back and owe him one. LA said none of that is necessary as long as they stood together. This was all just development for the main event, nothing to take away from it. Roman will be back next week. So we had Knight and Sikoa against the Usos. Sikoa had some fresh gear, I believe. The Usos spent time kind of focusing on their brother before Knight hit a jump-up elbow drop. Jay tried to emote ringside, but as he was about to take down Solo, out of absolutely nowhere, Royce Keys returns, spears, but I don't even want to say spear, shoulder tackles both of them clean through the barricade. And then out the mud from NXT appeared in the ring with Bronco Nima and Lucian Price helping Keys just wreck shop. They laid out Knight with their tandem finisher. Then they fed Jimmy to Keys. What I call Jemmy, like the girl on Real World. Jimmy to Keys for ultimate spinebuster. Then Keys grabbed the steel steps for battering ram shots to Jay and Solo. He did one that drilled LA right in the head as he leaned over the bottom rope onto the apron. The clincher was a crucifixion bomb on Jimmy through the announce table before the new heel trio got some legitimate heat in the ring to end the show from an Ottawa crowd that was not loud at any point during this episode. This was a stunning development to me. Why? Well, this Friday on the podcast, I literally said how unimpressive Price was in a singles match on NXT. And I guess, he might be closer to being cut than getting called up. And you have not heard this yet, but forthcoming on Wednesday's show, I'm going to say something similar about Nima from AAA on Saturday. So these guys getting called up to the main roster when they are still green as goose shit is just shocking, though there's no question they pair well with Keys as a trio of absolute monsters, two of them being from the West Coast. It's been quite a while since there's been a group of guys like this where physically you look at them and say, yep, all these guys look like legit ass kickers. They were visually incredible together, and the combination of power and aggression that they showed, it is not something you see much in wrestling. But you know what it was?
Big meaty man slapping meat. That's what I want. No bread, no water, just me. This is Monday Night Meat.
Plus, Keys' heel turn was completely justified, which you love to see. It's just, even watching OTM here, you could see the clunkiness of their work. It's not the first time a big man's gotten called up too early. It happened with Braun Strowman. Over time, he figured it out. That's a different beast entirely. WWE, they tried with Keys as a babyface. It did not work. This was a welcome surprise, character realignment, and heel turn. But while it added some bodies to Raw, these are not really the main eventers and upper mid-carders the brand needs most. That is still missing. And if you told me at any point in 2024 or 2025 that OTM would be on Raw before Jada Parker, I'd have committed you to an insane asylum. So it's certainly a questionable decision from a fitness for prime time standpoint. But how often do we get legitimate, full-on surprises that you never see coming? It does not happen. It hit hard in that manner. And hey, this worked for the Shield, which debuted in similar fashion. I'll come back with some further context here, Vintage. What say you?
In more than anything, it was a complete surprise. Like, you watch NXT, this shocked you for them to show up
completely.
Here. I don't watch NXT all the time. I didn't know who these people were. And I liked that feeling of not knowing who these people were. They weren't somebody I even would have recognized. It's not like someone I knew in AEW who came over. I did not know who these people were. And that is a feeling that like may come across as like, I don't know, ignorant or whatever, but I it takes me back to the old times when I was a kid and I didn't know who everybody was. I make this comparison with my brother all the time. Sometimes like you'd be watching Pokemon and some new Pokemon would show up who wasn't in the one game that we had. And you're like, what is this Pokemon? How does this work? I'd compare it to when someone would make an appearance in wrestling as a kid and you didn't know who they were. I have no context for who these two people were other than they're two giant dudes, along with Royce Keys, who's giant, who just beat up two really good tag teams and one of the greatest tag teams of all time, and it made an impression and made a great debut. So I was just like, wow, all right, like I'm interested. I don't know anything about these guys, and I'm excited to learn about them and see how they're presented, starting with that baseline.
So contextually, for those who do not watch NXT and or AAA, Bronco debuted with Los Perros del Mal, the brand's top faction, a couple of months ago in AAA. But he was excommunicated from the stable on Saturday after losing one-on-one against Penta. Lucian was bothered by his partner's second life outside of NXT, but they mostly got back on the same page last Tuesday on that show. This would normally scream like a move that was a recent creative development, not a long-term plan, because there weren't really signs of it. But the AAA episode was taped 3 weeks ago, the same time Keys was run through by Fatu, and that was planned even earlier. So it does appear like this was a known move executed well. The major outstanding question here is alignment. They went after the faces and the heels. Now, I presume the excuse is going to be that Knight helped Sikoa, but he was out of the arena when Fatu murked Keys. We talked about it on that episode. Like LA Knight left early for no reason whatsoever, and then Royce was a victim at the end of the show. Also, besides him, Solo didn't show up at all when he was getting his ass kicked. So they teamed together, won at SummerSlam, and then Knight and Sikoa threw him away once that was over in his eyes. That plus the obvious hatred for the bloodline, and Fatu specifically, given the way his friend laid him out, that makes him a legitimate heel completely. When I say that, I mean he's a heel, but he has legitimate reason and motivation for being a heel. Royce could level up as a challenger for Roman. He's believable from a size standpoint. OTM does add numbers to the tag team division, even if they're going to be the worst duo on the show. It's super unique to have a 3-sided feud in this manner, though it might throw Bloodline back into the tweener role, which is a huge negative if that's what happens, because they need to be heels, and they've been so much more entertaining over the last 3 to 4 weeks when they've been allowed to be heels. What I believe we're going to get coming out of this vintage, first time ever in WWE, a 3-team War Games. It would not be the best possible assortment of talent for the match. In War Games, you don't just want big behemoths beating the shit out of each other. But if you're going to go all the way with it, weapons, maybe some color, and you're telling me that you're getting Royce Keys and OTM, Solo Sikoa and LA Knight, big boys themselves, the Usos, Jacob Fatu, maybe Roman Reigns gets involved. I don't know if they're going to do 3-3-3, 4-4-4, whatever it might be. That is an intriguing match that freshens up the concept. We can put that aside because we don't know whether that's going to happen. But I did want to provide that background of OTM and also to explain to everyone, yeah, Keys did turn. He is a heel. But also, just like Sami Zayn, just like Drew McIntyre, no reason to criticize him for it in kayfabe.
And that's where the next time we see these three, when they make their explanation, presumably the next time we see them,
right?
When they make their explanation of who they are, why they're here, why they're together, you got to knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
You have to give the promo of your life if you're Royce Keys. Maybe it's in the ring promo. Maybe it's a vignette to try to protect him or something. But if you're going to be there doing this thing with the Usos and the Bloodline, one of the greatest tag teams of all time, and LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, probably your two biggest faces on Raw, you got to show you're at that level, especially since we don't know since the most of the WWE audience knows nothing about OTM. They know Royce Keys. So you have to make us believe that, hopefully next Monday.
So you talked about knocking it out of the park and doing a promo segment and so on. you're 1,000% right. But there is an important topic for us to cover before we move on here, Vintage. We need to set an over-under and guess how long it will be until WWE unveils a name for this group. If it ever happens, okay? Now, if memory serves, the Vision took 6 months, even though we named them the night they debuted or the week after they debuted. Jade Cargill's crew doesn't have a name, and the others are not even officially the baddies. It's just what Wade Barrett calls them. They don't have that nameplate. They don't go by it. MFT, if memory serves, took a while as well. So, Vintage, what is your over-under on how long it takes this trio to get a name? You said it, and then you and I can pick either side of it.
Are we going to count Royce Keys and OTM as it?
No. They need a trio name. They need a solid name, like The Vision or Judgment Day or whatever the case, the Bloodline.
My first thought is the Keys.
Come on.
Is that like
that's terrible?
They're the keys to what Royce Keys wants to do. I don't know. That's the first thing that came to mind.
I'm not asking you what the name is. I don't want you to pontificate.
I thought you want. No,
you got to listen. You got to listen to what I'm saying here, buddy. I'm asking you to set.
No, I get what you're saying.
I'm asking you to set an over under on how long it will take until a name is uttered on television.
Let's see. It's almost September. War Games in November. Let's say a month.
So you want to say September 25th?
Yeah. As over under.
Here's the thing. I want to say over because of all the examples I just gave you.
I'm taking the over. I don't think we're going to get it.
Even Bloodline, I feel like took like a year during the pandemic until they called themselves the Bloodline, I feel like.
Yeah, it did.
So I want to say over. However, the concept of this trio seems so solid that I'm going to go the other way against what my gut tells me, and I'm going to say under a month.
You could say the fact that none of them are really that established on WWE, especially two of them.
Right.
That makes it easier to do.
It does.
Like, it's not like you had Seth Rollins and Jade Cargill and these people you're trying to really promote as individuals first.
Yeah. I'm going to say under a month, but I know it's probably going to be like 4 months or something like that.
I'm thinking they're going to go Royce Keys and OTM. I think they won't get a name, and if they do, it'll be a long time.
You're going to say okay, so you're specifically saying they will never have a name.
I think it'll be like Jade Cargill and the baddies.
But they're not even the baddies, right?
They don't even have any name. But
right, they have nothing. So okay, you're going to say
because I say this because Cole said OTM.
He did
on Raw.
Yeah.
So he established, hey, that's like what you should know them as.
By the way, the other thing they can do is take the team name and extend it to the group. They can just be OTM as a trio.
What does OTM stand for?
Out the mud.
Yeah.
And it applies. That applies to Keys based on his story.
So that's true.
They could be a trio of Out the Mud. And if that's what happens, then this just becomes moot and it doesn't matter. But honestly, that's the best name for them. I also want to make a correction. I said there's no group over on SmackDown. It was MFT. Now they're just a team. So technically, they're not a group anymore, even though Haku's there. It doesn't really count in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you want MFT and then OTM on separate shows. It seems a little, lazy to a degree. I like Out the Mud. I don't like that they shorten the name whenever they use it on TV, but they do all the time. And it's very, in fact, I think even their nameplate on NXT was OTM. It didn't say Out the Mud, which just really frustrated me. Anyway, you set the over under. I'm going to say under. You're saying over, possibly never. And I think you're probably going to be right. Lastly, I did just want to mention Corey Graves did call Keys by his old name, Hobbs, during this attack. I didn't want any of you to think that I missed it or was giving him a break or glossing anything over. He said it. He corrected himself. It was kind of funny. That was it. Plenty more show left. Before we get to it, allow Silver King to remind you here at Getting Over.
I happen to love the number 5.
And I hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You will become an official Getting Over head. Visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You will get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions when major shows go down, along with exclusive news analysis posts. Please sign up, support the show, keep us on the air, and get some extra content too. Buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Plenty more to discuss from Raw and SmackDown. We're getting to all of it right now. Tackling the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hey, yo. Survey says one more for the good guy. Say hello to the back. Don't sing it. Bring it.
Oba Femi and Braun Breaker met in the ring with Paul Heyman and Adam Pearce for a contract signing that opened hour 2 of Raw. Breaker contended that Femi has not done anything substantial enough to call himself the future, especially since he hasn't won a championship of any kind. Pretty weak logic there. He fought through Oba chants, reminding that fans barked for him just the same until he got hurt, that being the only reason Femi had an opportunity to take his position. Oba called him an angry orange man, so Braun looked at his skin, which was not ridiculously orange like it had been previously. In other words, it was the wrong week to use that line, but Breaker made a funny deadpan face that popped me. Femi told Breaker the truth. He would have been the future if he broke into WWE in 2002 or 2015, but not in 2026. Oba said, quote, "Because I exist, your chances of being the face of this place have drastically gone down," paraphrasing Scott Steiner. Femi claimed the barks are going up the wrong tree, and he outclasses Breaker at every level. Braun told Oba that he loved being disrespected as an underdog because he's going to take him into the deep waters, tire him out, and prove he's unable to compete with a real dog. Breaker promised to own Femi, forcing him into his shadow when he beats him. Then he turned towards Heyman, ranting at him for moving from Brock Lesnar to Femi as a distraction. That way he could blindside Oba. That kicked off a brawl with a great close-up camera angle of Breaker getting murked in the corner until Austin Theory saved, but Femi ultimately cleared the ring of Breaker, toss-slammed Theory through a table. Oba stared down Braun, preventing him from saving Austin, and then chiding him for running away. Strong, successful segment overall. It did exacerbate the gulf between Femi and Breaker as personalities and characters, at least at this juncture of their careers. It's not that Braun is under-delivering. Rather, it's that Oba is over-delivering to such an insane degree that it's impossible for anyone else to keep up with him. He does not carry himself like a 28-year-old neophyte, but a 35-year-old veteran. Breaker is very much a 28-year-old still finding himself as a personality. That's no one's fault. They just happen to be on different trajectories, and Femi is proving week by week that he is truly a one-of-one dude. Oba came off like a legitimate main eventer. Braun was an upper mid-carder trying to level up. You cannot teach aura, presence, and sometimes creativity, which is often overlooked when it comes to Femi. His promos are so damn creative and engaging. Where Breaker shined was his refusal to be intimidated, whereas others, including even Lesnar, have blinked when confronted by the prospect of fighting this guy. He was unwavering. He even figured out a way to get one up on him before the segment ended. He played his role perfectly as a guy on the edge, less sure of himself and his status. Shockingly, his only failure was not conveying passion. He acted too cool for school, far too relaxed, considering what it means to be the future of WWE. That's the primary criticism for Braun, who has really never been accused by me of lacking energy before. He was likely coached into that, and he did it well, but it was just not the right alignment for him. There's a difference between existing as the future and trying to claim you are the future. Those are respective roles that they're holding right now. Most important, this received a lot of time, and both guys got a chance to speak well. The eras line from Femi hit the hardest. Breaker would have been a no-doubter top guy 20 or even 10 years ago. Now, if you're comparing them apples to apples, you look at Oba Femi and you say, that dude has it. And he has emerged head and shoulders above Breaker for a variety of reasons. This completely delivered, no doubt or good.
Have to start with Oba's his outfit, his dress shirt game, which we got a comment. I got a comment on Slack that I needed to compare Oba's fits with Gunther's fits. And to me, without a doubt, it's Oba Femi. His dress game is absolutely on point in a way that everything makes sense and fits. Gunther's up there, but he makes too many interesting choices I don't always love. I would say Oba's fit better than Gunther's. This whole segment just reaffirmed what I keep saying, which is Oba Femi does not need Paul Heyman. Get Paul Heyman away from him. This is one of the most gifted big man talkers we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
It's truly incredible. Like for all the parts of Oba Femi where you say this guy has the look, the aura, the entrance, it's his ability to talk that puts it all together. And, Brock Lesnar needed a Paul Heyman. Some other big guys, Andre the Giant needed Bobby Heenan. Oba Femi doesn't need that. And he doesn't talk like Brock in a way where the voice is a little bit weird, so you only do it sometimes. No. Every time Oba Femi speaks, you are just entranced, enthralled, and taken into what he is as a character. Mm-hmm. So, and he just shined here. Every time he has these opportunities, he shines. So I thought that was great. His points were great. The points, like you just said, the different eras, that's a great way to really kind of get to the heat of the issue between these guys, both in kayfabe and arguably in reality. But I did like Braun's response of, I'm going to drag you into the deep waters, your lungs, you're going to get tired, your legs are going to give out, because we've only seen Oba Femi generally do squash matches on the main roster. He went a little bit longer with Brock, but we haven't seen him at the main roster. I don't know, maybe with Cody, I don't remember, but like go through longer matches. And that's a great strategy from Braun, because we know Braun has great cardio for all the powerhouse that he is. We know he's got speed and cardio and all these things. So it's a fascinating like styles matchup as well. And that's something you don't get often in wrestling promos, like guys talking about like how they're going to wrestle the match. And so just everything about this felt fresh, felt fun, felt different, felt like two guys who you fully believed in everything that they were saying. Obviously Braun's on at the level of Oba talking, but I thought he did a pretty good job here. I thought this whole thing was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, they absolutely crushed it. And my most substantial takeaway from this segment was a realization that I am truly 100% all in with Oba Femi. I've been at 95% for 2 years now, but the main roster requires a far more varied skill set than NXT. And I have a feeling this match against Breakker in Atlanta is going to check that final box. It should be a legitimate extended match so long as Bronson Reed does not return and interfere early. But I've been watching wrestling for 3 decades, and I cannot recall a single wrestler who I have latched onto as much as Oba. Tatanka was my original favorite. That was fleeting. Then I moved to Shawn Michaels. The boyhood dream fully got me hooked. Becky Lynch might be the closest, but this is different. And what's so important to point out when it comes to Femi is that this guy is coachable. He was raised in a Nigerian household. He spent 4 years at a top-tier athletic program at Alabama and then went right into the WWE Performance Center. He listens, he learns, he has the right attitude, and that is accentuating his aptitude. And when you combine all of that together, you get a guy, you said the most skilled big man talker ever. He might wind up the most skilled big man wrestler ever when you look at entire package top to bottom. And the only comparison I can really make is Brock Lesnar, which is such a important reason why they didn't just have the one match at WrestleMania. They did the trilogy because you got to see him dominate him, then lose to him circumstantially, and then come back over the top, get that big win, and be put over by Lesnar in Minnesota. Like, you can argue about a week here or there, but we said this really, I think, going into SummerSlam. WWE has managed Oba Femi's debut year on the main roster about as well as you could possibly ask for, and they're not shoving him down our throats like they did with Lesnar when he debuted and less than 2 months later won the championship from The Rock on SmackDown. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so different now. They're being patient, yet simultaneously featuring him as well as they possibly can. They're crushing it. He's crushing it. And when you realize, like, if everything goes right, this guy has at least 10 years in the industry, if not longer. That is so ridiculously exciting to think about what Oba Femi is going to be like 6 months from now, let alone 6 years from now.
This is why WWE made the push for the college athletes. Like, they wanted to get those people when they were 23, instead of 29 or something like that. And one correction to what you said, he didn't spend 4 years at Alabama. He spent a couple years at Middle Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
then went to Alabama. You can hear all about it in my interview with him on my YouTube page.
Oh my
plug there.
God.
Oh my God. No, but you're right. I mean, Braun too. I mean, Braun
Good
played football. Like he comes from a wrestling family, but that was it. Like the coachable part of it. These guys come from that structured situation, and all you got to do is find like 1 to 2 like mega stars out of that, and it makes it all worth it. And that's what Oba Femi is. Like you're right. Like I don't see a flaw. I don't see a flaw in his game right now. Now, can he go 20 minutes, 25 minutes? I don't know. Is that what Braun's going to try to do? Are they going to give him that much time? I don't know. But to this point, nothing we've actually seen has indicated a flaw.
Well, you haven't seen, to be fair, you haven't seen long run times for matches on the main roster because there's been no reason whatsoever for him to do that. He has wrestled long matches in NXT. Now, most of them, in fact, I kind of want to say all of them are under that 20-minute mark, but he would regularly wrestle like 17, 18-minute main events. When he lost to Ricky Saints at the War Memorial here in Fort Lauderdale that I wasn't able to go to, that was like a 17, 18-minute match. The huge bout 1 year ago at NXT Heatwave, actually, the Javon Evans match that everyone loves so much, that was around 18 minutes. So he can wrestle to that length, but 18 minutes is not 30 and 35. And we have seen Roman Reigns and CM Punk and Cody Rhodes and some other guys do that. The question is, if Oba Femi is your champion, do you need to go that deep? Probably not, right? And frankly, if they put him at the top of the company and those main events shorten by 10 to 15 minutes, that opens up more time for the other matches on the card. Just kind of saying.
Or more times for advertising.
Or more time for advertising. Probably not, though. Point is, you get so excited at the prospects of what Femi brings. And Monday night was just the latest proof that, he can go in the ring. He's intimidating. He's a great look. He can speak. But he carried that segment. And that's, again, Breaker did not do poorly. He just could never have done as well as Oba Femi. It's not his fault.
I would say I would love for Oba and Braun to have like a 10-year rivalry. Like
they need to,
like
for sure.
Obviously, these guys didn't go this long, but a Rock Triple H thing where they both kind of come up at the same time and they meet each other at various levels of their careers and they kind of elevate together. That would be a really cool thing you can do because both guys are still very young. Yeah,
no question. I'm glad we spent some time on this. We do have plenty more to cover here, of course, in the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's talk about this Lucha Libre Invitational. And despite what I said earlier, I did not abide by my new match breakdown rule for this first match. I couldn't. Rey Fenix, Dragon Lee, semifinal. Fenix hit 2 Adios Amigos, top rope and ring apron, plus a flying crossbody and springboard moonsault just minutes into the match. Dragon came back with a tope con hero and his best float over Liger Bomb execution yet. Fenix landed his own flashy waist grab Liger Bomb. Dragon prevented a Frankensteiner, hit his hanging double stomp. Thought he was going to try an Avalanche Styles Clash. That did not happen. Dragon ejected himself with a cannonball tope suicida onto and over the announce table, which was probably the spot of the entire week in any company. Then he hit a spike tornado DDT. Fenix prevented Operation Dragon, countering with a brainbuster before landing the standing Meteora. Dragon immediately avoided Mexican Muscle Buster, countered into a Styles Clash for a false finish. Fenix countered back with a rolling cutter, ultimately landing a few super kicks and a super spin Mexican Muscle Buster to prevail in 14 minutes. Rey put Dragon over so thoroughly after the bell, he even lifted Leon to his shoulders, and that was super cool to see. Outstanding match, easily the best of the tournament to this point. You know my lone critique, more time. 14 minutes is not short, but man, 18 or 20 would have taken this to an entirely different level. These guys were going nuts. Those extra 4 to 6 minutes would have gone from top level TV match to something special that we're maybe talking about at the end of the year. Still, exactly what more matches in this tournament needed to be. Fenix over Dragon was expected, given Rey has been on a tremendous run this summer, and he's also much older. This is his time to shine. Dragon looked amazing in defeat. He was obviously put over huge. He will have plenty of opportunities. He sneakily, by the way, had an incredible year in the ring. And his popularity, Dragon, seems to be increasing as well. Also, phenomenal camera work from bell to bell. Production crushed this match. 4.25 stars. Good.
Look, this could, I was surprised. I was expecting 10 minutes, 12 minutes with a lot of these. So they gave them a good amount of time, especially considering Rey Fenix is like not really even on the main roster, and Dragon Lee is like considered low card.
What do you mean?
So
He's
they
not,
gave these guys.
What do you mean he's not really on the main roster? He's wrestled every week on TV for like a month.
Yeah, but he's still like he's more like a AAA guy. Still.
No,
like he's
he's
not
doing both.
regularly on.
Yes, he is.
Other than this tournament, he has not been doing anything on the main roster.
There was a period of time where he wasn't being utilized well, but recently, last 2 months, he's been on every week pretty much.
Well, the match was great, and that cannonball spot, the suicide dive all the way to the table, that's one of the craziest spots I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was just nuts in a WWE situation to see that, and they nailed it. And shout out to the referee who helped set that up, because he's leaning out from under the rope to check on the guy outside. While he's doing that, he's pushing the middle rope down to provide the extra space to help make sure the guy doesn't get caught and hurt himself. Really great job by the referee there. The execution of that spot was just nuts. Really cool. Great match. Correct winner. And yeah, the Dragon Lee story is he gets some time to wrestle. The match gets over. People love it. Then we kind of restart it again every time. He's consistently always getting good reactions out of the crowd for the wrestling. It's just that other part that they haven't fully like been able to figure out, but he delivers every time.
He indeed has, man. This, I got to tell you, this should have been proof for WWE, especially the way the crowd reacted again in Ottawa. Not a good crowd for this episode. If they focus on doing one true
Banger
match per episode, fans will forgive a lot of the other wrestling tropes, including DQs and shorter matches. You got to have one
banger.
And I'm telling you, everything else will work itself out if you do.
That was the old WCW strategy with Eric Bischoff, was you do the cruiserweight match essentially that everybody loves, and then you do everything else around it. I agree. It'd be a great thing to do one of those every show, and it would really help.
Penta fought La Parka in the other semifinal. Absolutely sucked that we missed La Parka's entrance for a Mr. T documentary ad. This started quite plotting until Penta hit a huge shotgun dropkick and a handstand dropkick in the corner. Penta driver came later for a false finish, preceding a La Parka executed Spanish fly. Penta avoided bone breaker with the sacrifice arm breaker before winning with a springboard Mexican destroyer. So weak, it is not even comparable to Phoenix Dragon. None of the matches featuring AAA talent popped in a meaningful way, which also kind of seemed purposeful. Like WWE did not want the AAA talent showcasing themselves and getting over, which should have been antithetical to the entire point of the tournament. But of course, we don't know whether that's true or just my perception of how these matches were booked. Good enough, unremarkable.
I did chuckle. There was at one point during commentary where I forget who it was, said that La Parka is kind of in a new situation here, not wrestling in his home country because they were in Canada. It was like, well, America wasn't his home country either, but the idea of like, well, I guess it's two countries away, a very, very different sort of, it was just the geography part of me was kind of chuckling.
Yeah, he probably meant outside of Mexico versus, you know what I mean?
Well, I think he meant outside of Mexico and the United States.
Sure, okay.
Which he's wrestled in the U.S. a bunch,
yes.
But Canada maybe is a little bit more unusual. So it was kind of funny. But yeah, obviously not to the level we would have thought. And it goes back to what we said a week ago, which was this tournament was really mostly about the WWE guys and not the AAA guys, for better or for worse. And I think comparing the first match that we talked about here and the second kind of just illustrated that again.
Indeed. Penta and Phoenix dapped up on stage after the second match. Rey Mysterio then did a commercial break interview, putting over that forthcoming bout as monumental. My only issue is the matchup is happening on a taped episode when the Raw before the Mexico City show airs live on September 7th. Reigns won't be on that show. So it's not like they're saving the go-home for an in-ring confrontation between the winner and Reigns. So what are you doing on that episode otherwise? Perhaps it's being done this way out of injury concern, but I do not understand the decision to run the final on a taped show, especially when it's Penta and Phoenix, the match everyone has wanted to see, when you can do it live on September 7th instead. Or you could do it at Saturday night's main event, Sunday night's main event. Either way.
So I've had thoughts about this too, because we got the Roman bit next week. And it's like, I would have loved to have Roman Reigns' just like thoughts as the tournament progressed. have him just do a video from home on his phone saying, hey, this La Parka guy impressed me, or this straight Ray Phoenix. Hey, I'll smash all these guys, but I got to hand it to him. That was a great match or whatever. Instead, it's just silence. And then we're just going to have him, I guess, talk around. We don't even know when, before, after the winner, or whatever. That was kind of, it's the whole thing is about the winner faces Roman, and we're not going to get any thoughts from Roman on this until the very end. And it's like, again, missed opportunity to just, he doesn't have to be there. Have him put over the tournament and who's in it. Really maximize the value of this thing. And instead, he's just, it's not my problem until we get to the guy at the end, who I'm sure they will hype up and all that stuff.
But they won't even have a confrontation. There will be no Roman Penta confrontation.
Not a real confrontation, unless it's like after the match or whatever.
No, he won't be on the show on September 7th, Roman. So he will not be on TV again while Penta's there. Unless to your point, yes. Unless he confronts him after the number one contendership match on this taped show, maybe he stares him down. But there's not going to be a whole segment, which you'd get on a go home, which would be the reason why you don't run this match live. You run it taped to have that, to create that opening.
Yes. Now, if you can plan ahead, have Roman cut a backstage whatever while he's in there and use it the next week or something. You gotta do something to promote the match while you have him. But again, it's just when you use these guys to really get the whole thing over, not just the end. It feels more important. We've said this about other tournaments. I don't remember what it was. There was one other tournament we had the same conversation, and it's like, why not hear from the champion as it's going on? Have him put the whole thing over. I don't know. It's just annoying.
Well, that's been our number one problem with Reigns throughout really this entire run. We understand that he has a reduced schedule and is not going to be on TV as much as other people. That's fine. He can tape stuff from home, whether it's an interview segment, whether it's sending in a video, whether it's commenting on something or posting on social media and they play it on the show. We've talked about
Logan Paul does it.
We've talked about when he's at Raw, them pre-taping segments with him for the future, or when he's at Raw, using him 3 or 4 times on a single episode as opposed to only one segment. That's the issue. It's WWE's usage of Reigns when they have him and him doing nothing when he's not at the arena. It makes no sense how they haven't figured this out. It's super, super frustrating. All right, we got more to talk about. Stephanie Vaquer fought Roxanne Perez. This was Vaquer's first match in more than 4 months. Perez's entrance began during the break with Judgment Day ringside. It was nowhere near as smooth as it should have been over the first half. Lots of clunkiness. Devil's Kiss got the fans going, preceding a dragon screw and a Meteora. Perez pulled the apron into the ring as a distraction to rake the eyes before a facebuster, Shining Wizard, and Crossface. Vaquer ultimately countered that into SVB, the backbreaker variation. She went for the Inferno. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez interfered, so Becky Lynch came out. Vaquer took care of Rodriguez and ultimately caught Perez with the SVB, the butterfly lung blower variation, to win in 13 minutes. Becky tossed Liv over the barricade and stared down Stephanie once again. Most important here was Vaquer getting back in the ring and working. She looked so much better over the second half of this match than the first, clearly knocked off some of that rust. This was probably the worst of their 3 matches dating back to NXT, but that's circumstantial for all the reasons mentioned. All in all, it was a good piece of business. It kept the 3-way feud hot while getting Roxy some much-needed ring time. I am not worried about her losing matches. I would like something deeper for her character, though. It was a kick-the-can-down-the-road week for Vaquer, Lynch, and Morgan. Not sure what's taking so long to set up a contendership or a title match. That was how I felt when the segment ended.
Yeah, no, good match. What you would expect between these two, good segment, everybody being involved. I was just thinking, though, you could tell the Braun Breaker story with Roxanne Perez at some point. She's the prodigy and all the stuff, and then all these other women have shown up and taken the spot, like Sol Ruca or whatever. Real potential there. Now, Roxanne is so young that it's really not as much of a concern as Braun, but Roxanne's been around now for long enough that I think maybe we take her for granted a bit. She's in a lot of big spots, a lot of matches on TV all the time. She's doing a lot of things, but wondering at one point, what will be her moment to get to the top of the women's division like Stephanie Vaquer is. Will be a good story at some point, when they decide to do it.
Indeed, Vaquer backstage learned she would challenge Morgan for the women's championship in 2 weeks. Stephanie warned Liv that she does not have enough to beat her, as proven previously. She also told Becky through the camera she appreciated her help, but does not need it. Vaquer promised to take back her title and destroy Judgment Day. I'm struggling to understand on the surface why this match would not be held for Mexico City. I know I literally just said it's taking them too long to set up a match, but if we're only talking about 1 week difference, you're already pushing it out 2 weeks. Why are you running this in Alabama rather than Mexico when you have a Chilean Spanish-speaking star and Liv who's in a faction full of Spanish speakers? Hold on.
So dumb.
The only way it makes sense is if they run a typical DQ or Becky accidentally costs Stephanie and they move to a triple threat immediately the following week in Mexico. That's got to be it. It was a good promo from Vaquer. Her English has improved so much. I just don't understand the scheduling of the match.
Yeah, this was the thing I wanted to really talk about with Stephanie, or just really highlight. Like, she so clearly worked on her English when she was out hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a world of difference. She is speaking with confidence when she's doing English. The same way with Asuka. It doesn't have to be perfect grammar or this or that, but just speaking with a confidence when you're doing your second language. She is. She went to Spanish a little bit in the point, and that's fine. But hearing the improvements she has made already make me very, very bullish again on her long-term potential. And she's already been a world champ and all these types of things. But it was very clear as champion that she had hit a ceiling character-wise with the language issue. And that has made a big improvement, and good for her.
Indeed. Chelsea Green backstage tried to cheer up Tiffany Stratton coming out of the trainer's room. She offered to take her out for a steak dinner as an apology, but Tiffy asked her to simply stay backstage for her match so she did not risk further injury. Paige interrupted them, put over Green before Fatal Influence talked trash to all three, calling Chelsea's speech cute but not practical. Green suggested they take all the heels titles, so Paige challenged JC Jane. Later, Tatum Paxley interrupted a conversation between Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss after Flair briefly forgot about her existence. Jade Cargill and the baddies confronted, calling them pathetic. Tatum tried to be friendly, but wound up in a singles challenge against Michin. WWE is letting Paxley be her freaky self. That is hugely positive. One reason she's so beloved is that she's simultaneously weird and endearing, which is a tough line to straddle. It should be a nice win for her next week against an opponent who puts in work, and Michin should make her look awesome. Back to the earlier segment, Paige should be a really nice first defense for Jane. It's probably going to involve Nikki Bella interference, but Paige interacting with the rest of the women's roster, the younger women, is so much more interesting than anything she has done with the Bellas, whether teaming with them or now against them. But most important, 12 women were involved in these two segments, and all of them had reason to be there. Good.
Definite good. It's exactly what we said we wanted to see with Paige, was her working with the younger talent, putting them over, talking with them backstage. So liked all of that, loved all the setup, showed a lot of the women. We have been very critical of the SmackDown women's, situation for a couple of weeks, other than Chelsea last week. So this was another good step in the right direction.
Well, there's still some criticism to come, but for that, it was definitely good. Stratton fought Lash Legend. Tiffy came up short on a tope suicida, her second botch in about 60 seconds. Lash saved her life with a below-the-waist catch ringside. There was a nice triple counter before Stratton landed her handspring stunner and a crucifix bomb after another series of counters and avoidances. Legend then pushed Stratton onto the top of the ring post to avoid prettiest moonsault ever, hitting Lash extension to win clean. Nia Jax squashed Tiffy with a leg drop after the bell until Green saved with a kendo stick, getting licks on both heels. Huge pop for Chelsea. Most of this match happened during the break, which was pathetic as the only women's bout on the show. Lash prevailing was necessary to follow up on her defeat of Julia. That would have been completely worthless if she lost here, especially since Tiffy was selling an injury earlier backstage from last week. However, despite the women being featured heavily Friday, and despite there being flashes of quality in this match, 7 minutes, half of which came during a break for the lone women's match on a program, gets an automatic ugly.
Market zero.
Chelsea getting physically involved, given her status, was also dumb. She at least should have come out with Paige, given the earlier alignment. Still major problems booking this division on Friday, despite some improvements, but it all boils down to one thing.
We're wrestlers in a wrestling ring. Let's just freaking wrestle.
You know, it's been pretty clear. We're going on 2 months now since SmackDown went from 3 hours to 2 hours. And you would like to think by now they've figured out again how to pace the show, how much to put on the show. This match just also had the SmackDown just also happened to have a, 25-minute, 30-minute segment that was a world championship match at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little more lenient on the time on this one just for that reason. It's not like there was ultimately still like a lot of things on this show that filled up the other hour and a half. So I'll give that one a little bit of a pass. That said, the match itself, first off, Tiffany coming out with the K tape on her ribs. I'm going to say what I say every time this happens in pro wrestling. I want to bring back just the taped up ribs with the bandage tape,
so much more effective. Like DDP.
DDP. Yeah, the DDP taped ribs. Mm-hmm. That looks so much, that sells the injury so much more than just like what looks like a bandage.
Yep.
It like seeing the K tape. I say this all the time with Kenny Omega too. It doesn't sell the injury. Like this is pro wrestling. You gotta like kind of amp it up a little bit more. So that's my little nitpick. Match was nothing special, as we said. I'll probably give it a bad just because of the match, but I'm not going to give it an ugly like you.
That's your prerogative. Blake Monroe backstage was struggling to decide what attire to wear when she got interrupted by Kathy Kelly. Blake said this was not the debut she envisioned because as a talent, she's deserving of a WWE championship opportunity. Instead, she had to rehash an old feud with Julia in a dump like Toronto, as opposed to London or Paris, which is why she was struggling with her outfit. When Kathy put over Blake's looks, no matter what she wears, she smiled and dropped her robe.
I was up all night.
Before saying, quote, even when they give me nothing, I'll do what I do best and make everybody talk about me. After the break, Monroe jumped Julia during her entrance, immediately creating excitement and drawing heat. However, after they both got in the ring, Blake landed a headbutt, pump knee, and a neutralizer, and the bell never rang. Monroe yelled into a camera that she deserved a championship match. In the backstage segment, cute line at the end harkening back to the start and stop nature of her booking, really lack of booking, since officially debuting months ago. Enjoyed that as a personality segment, especially considering the vignette stopped like 2 months ago. Though perhaps she should have been doing her makeup in the mirror, considering Blake previously revealed that WWE had taken away that from her entrance. Not actually running the match for her promoted debut was laughable. My question is whether it was purposeful, WWE thumbing their nose at the chatter, or because they legitimately believed it was a way to inject meaning and intensity into this match. I can see it both ways, and Monroe did follow up on her backstage promo with this move. There's no question that Blake was presented well Friday. The goal was to get heat on her and make Julia more likable, which is basic storytelling. But it was immensely disappointing not to see a match after all this time. There's also the possibility, as unlikely as it seems, that she's the one to take the title off of Chelsea in short order, hence her 3 times in 2 weeks saying that she should only fight championship matches. This will surprise you considering how negative I've been about their booking. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic and grade this a provisional good, granted the match happens in the next couple of weeks and or Julia is moved to Raw. If not, it flips to a bad. Most important was Monroe appearing to be a character who deserves our attention. That was accomplished, and you left SmackDown wanting to see what she would do next.
It's incredible, because now I'm giving it the ugly. Which is, you promised the match after all this time, and they didn't do it. They tried to cover up as best. Yeah, they tried to cover up the best they could with all the things that you said, but ultimately, you promise a match and don't do the match after all this time. I'm giving that an ugly. Not to say it can't be resolved, like you said, but for this show, for this segment, that's what I'm giving it.
That's completely fair. Here's what Blake said on social media after SmackDown.
That's not my debut. I didn't wait 4 months getting called up to SmackDown, and I didn't wait 9 years to make it to the WWE to have my debut like that. I'm World Championship material. So you find Chelsea Green, you bring her to me, and then you get the glamour. Until then, get out my face.
Like, that would have been a lot more effective if that explained why she hasn't been wrestling for the last 9 weeks, like, or last 4 months or whatever it is. Like, she wants Chelsea Green. She refuses to fight anyone else, and she's doing all these other things. But
I mean,
she just got scheduled for her first match and still didn't have it, to your point.
And what she said was fine, but she's the heel.
Right.
That was kind of a babyface promo. That felt like, I know fans are upset about this. I'm going to speak to that and try to basically keep up the energy, calm them, whatever.
Well, that's certainly true. Yeah, no question. Sol Ruca backstage learned she's getting her Intercontinental Championship rematch. She was stoked. Io Sky interrupted the interview to gas her up. Lyra Valkyria then came through, slightly cleaned up and acting positively, trying to convince Sol that Raquel will kick the shit out of her, so she should pass over the number 1 contendership. When Ruca declined, Valkyria got in both of their faces, acting odd, until Io noted that she was scary. This, for me, was a failure on all fronts. Sol has shown zero personality since debuting. All we know, hey, she's a cute surfer girl. Her promos are bland and basic. Lyra not going batshit crazy after last week was not a problem, but rather her inane idea of just give me the title match was so ridiculously dumb. And then you have Io, the top women's wrestler in the world, who's been a third wheel to this entire deal for the mid-card title. Can you really not find something more substantial for Io Sky to do? Like, I don't know, wrestle? I'm glad Lyra was able to shower for the first time in a month, but this was 0 for 3 as far as I was concerned, all to create a rematch that we've seen before. Bad.
That was borderline hey now for Lyra Valkyria. Again, the wrestlers when they're wearing just regular clothes. It's
for this version of Lyra? Okay.
I said it was close. No, I wasn't there. It was close. When she showed up, I was like, whoa. All right. So it didn't make any sense, but I'm okay that Lyra didn't make any sense because she's not supposed to make sense. Sol was just kind of whatever, and Io's there to pump everybody up. This is 2 weeks or 2 out of 3 weeks where they've had Sol do the promo backstage with Kathy Kelly instead of in the ring in front of people and whatever. I don't know. Are people clamoring to see like Sol Ruca in this match right now? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like we came out of the Raquel Sol thing thinking like, oh, like Raquel, she's got something here. She's bloodied up. She looked good. And since then, they took the barbed wire off the belt and she's again a third wheel to live in whatever else is going on. So we're going to get this rematch. I'm really hoping we don't get a title change.
No, they need to keep the strap on Rodriguez, even though we talked about last week how it's going to be better on a babyface because there's more heeled challengers. They can't give it to Raquel and have her lose in her first defense against the person she beat. Like that would be just an absolute disaster. But
so
look,
do we figure Lyra interferes and that's how Raquel wins?
She shows up, distracts probably, Yeah. Maybe holds her leg down on a soul snatcher or something like that. Yeah. That's what I would guess happens. But look, I said this for months. You guys all know Sol was called up a year before she was ready. She needed time in NXT to develop a personality, hone her moveset, not just be all about flips and stuff. And they brought her up and she's floundering to a degree. I know she's popular. People like the Soul Snatcher. That's cool. But she's not where she should be. She should have been able to come into this division like a bat out of hell, like Lyra Valkyria did when she got called up. Now, I know Lyra's been cooled off, but there was no question that she was fit for the main roster when she initially debuted on Raw. Sol, every time I see her, I'm like, this doesn't fit right. Like, she's not ready.
Like, think about those call-ups and think where they are. Oba Femi. We just talked about them. Like, top level.
Yeah.
Trick Williams. Crazy over. Who's the other one?
Javon Evans is wrestling weekly and very popular.
Javon Evans is mid-card, but he's on the show every week wrestling, putting on great matches, and, like, it's working.
Yeah.
Like, you could see they were ready, and it's just not quite there with Sol.
It's not. Lola Vice received a true vignette that neither featured her face nor any words, just scenes of her strutting in South Beach and fighting in an MMA-style gym. She will debut on September 14th when Raw is in Mexico City, which makes a ton of sense because even though she's Cuban, not Mexican, she's been part of the AAA roster for the better part of a year. So fans are going to be really familiar and excited to see her. For those wondering, she was never expected to join the SmackDown roster. That was incorrectly reported by someone who has a large platform, but makes assumptions and just doesn't know what's going on. She was always headed to Raw, and as we have discussed for months, Monday nights need her badly. No grade because it was a simple vignette, but I like the way it was shot.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll see.
Trick Williams and Lil Yachty opened hour 2 of SmackDown, claiming Baron Corbin cannot beat them without taking shortcuts. Corbin didn't have the United States Championship, claiming it was getting a haircut. He said Williams would not get another title opportunity, considering he already lost his rematch. Corbin apparently has terrible peripheral vision because Boat was literally standing behind him with the trick stick, delivering 3 shots to knock him out of the ring. So he relented, accepting the challenge for Sunday night's main event if Boat can survive 5 long minutes with him in Atlanta. The crowd chanted for Yachty, who accepted. My hope upon Corbin returning to WWE was that he would be presented more authentically. Instead, he's basically the same dude he was before. He's just being taken more seriously with less comic relief. It's been the same thing every week with Williams, Yachty, and even the trick stick.
It's the same thing over and over and over. It's like missionary position every single night.
And I'm growing incredibly tired of it. They've made Trick boring, for me, at least personally. The booking works, cool, unique concept for the Atlanta show. I dig it, but it wasn't even clarified whether both matches could happen on the show or if only the Yachty match is happening. And then if he wins, Trick gets a title opportunity at another time. If it's both matches, great. If it's just the Yachty match, it's super weak. Despite liking the concept, this segment for me was bad.
I'm on the fence. I like the idea, like on paper, of Corbin and Yachty. But Corbin's the champion. And that I know he's beaten Trick and whatever. That's the kind of part I'm like, like if Trick still had the title or if Carmelo had the title or something, I could see that a little bit more. I'll give it a light bad, but I will say, like, I am intrigued by the match at Sunday night's main event.
Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough confronted Rey Mysterio backstage as he was dapping up Rey Fenix, wishing him luck ahead of his semifinal match. While they were talking shit, Javon Evans stormed in, ran both heels into and over road cases. And then Rey dapped him up for beating the shit out of his son, which was hilarious.
That was a good one, yeah.
This could have extended events from AAA this past Saturday, in which Dom and Rey were involved in a segment, but again, not referenced. The segment preceded the scheduled rivalry match between Evans and Big Cass, who debuted to an extremely basic, possibly AI entrance theme. It was mediocre at best. The Big Cass logo, the C looked like a separator, so again, it looked like his name was Big Ass. Cass overpowered Javon early and often, going into the break with a boss man slam. Evans came out with a running splash into the timekeeper's area, and then just started beating the ever-loving shit out of him in the corner. I thought that was going to be a double countout, which would have been a totally fine way to end the match, but he followed with Red Dot and a springboard clothesline. Cass prevented OG Cutter, he pushed Evans off the ropes, and beat him with a big boot while bleeding from the mouth. And that was hard way, but it was perfectly accentuated the beating he took outside from Javon. When Cass departed, Judgment Day completely laid Evans out. They got a lot of heat for that, as did Cass in victory. Javon slipping on the top rope after being given some huge spots, including the aggressive beatdown of Cass. That was a lot of protection in what was still a clean loss. Cass could have been defeated in his debut if he faced someone more substantial, but he had to beat an undersized rookie. I'm not loving his first month back with the company at all, but as an individual segment, especially with what happened backstage, this does get a light good.
So the big cast of it all, and I'm glad we have this right after the Corbin thing, because I'm thinking about a bunch of the new faces who have come into or come back to WWE, the main roster. You got Baron Corbin, you got Big Cass, you got OTM. There's a very clear connection with all 4 of those guys, which is big guys. Just big guys who can move a bit. Does it feel like to you WWE has actively maybe looked at a roster and decided we just need more big dudes to do stuff?
I think we talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago. It's clear to me that's what they said, that they didn't have enough big men. The problem is they needed them on SmackDown. They got them on Raw. With Royce Keys and all these guys now part of this, there's too much almost at this point. So now if they have the luchadors there too, great. But as I've said before, they're lacking main eventers on this brand, and they brought in Cass to just be a big dude who pushes little dudes around. They haven't given him any personality. They barely explained his, depression and everything that went wrong. They just said, hey, shit happened. And now he's back. Yeah. It's like, Well, you gave us those vignettes and we were really excited that they were going to dive deep into it. Then he did the attack the next week. I think he cut a promo and said a little bit, but like we should have already gotten a sit down interview with him. I was going to say Corey Graves. That would not happen. They're at odds with each other personally, but Michael Cole should have sat down with him at some point, even if it's one of the short ones, the 90 seconds, 2 minutes. Cass, why are you back? What happened to you? Blah, blah, blah. At least we would know something about him. He's a generic big dude. I like the fact that he is cut. He's in amazing shape. The Tims wrestling in those is really difficult. So it's pretty cool to see him doing that. And when he does the big boot, it looks awesome, like doing it with a Tim. But I mean, what is the end goal here? So Javon beats him and then he's beating a big dude. And then what? Because Javon's not beating him with an OG cutter. Most likely he's going to be a pinning combination or a roll up or some bullshit. And then what is achieved by that? What does Cass do afterward? I struggle to understand his purpose.
Yeah, like same with Corbin. Like I think you see these guys just came in to be intimidating, get some big guy wins early on, and then eventually get overcome. Like none of us are thinking Corbin or Cass or OTM are on their way to world title matches. It's very clear they had something they wanted to fill. And to your point about Big Cass's story and whatever, the vignettes and stuff, like they tried to do it a bit. But on this commentary on this match, Cole says that Big Cass still hasn't reflected on things and that he's still blaming everybody else for what happened to him. He thinks he pulled himself out of the ditch by himself, but he's forgotten the people who helped him. Mm-hmm. Who are those people? I don't know. Who are, like, it's not clear exactly why Big Cass is a heel other than he's just beating up Javon Evans. And that's where you need the interview. That's where we need, like, how did he get back? Or who is he not giving credit to for helping him? Are they in the company? Are they not? I don't know. And so Cass just still feels like an empty void of just a big guy who's standing there.
Yep.
And I also think about this with these two where it's like, what if Rusev was in this spot? Rusev is a great seller. He's great at getting baby faces over. He's intimidating. He can work. He can talk. He can do everything. He's just not 6'5". And it feels like that's the delineation right now. And like, I think I'd be enjoying a lot of this more, and other people would be too if this was like a Rusev here. But we're going with big guys and we're going to do big guy things. So that's not to, obviously we want big guys in the company. Like that's good. You need a variety of dudes. But there's just a lot missing here with Cass. I'm giving this a bad just because it just kind of wasn't anything. It was just Cass beating up another guy.
I don't know. When Javon was kicking his ass in the corner of the timekeeper's area, I was like, whoa. Like that to me sold me on this whole thing. And
that's fair.
Also having Javon like feud with Dom and JD, like that's more exciting to me, obviously, than the Cass situation. Now, it seems like they're going to be able to push him past. Cass beat him, Javon moves on. And now he gets to feud with these guys. It's better for all three of them. So that's why I went that way. But no, your grade is totally, obviously, legitimate. Ethan Page backstage gave Chad Gable a golf clap for beating Mysterio last week, saying he already earned his #1 contendership and won't let Gable only face washed-up legends. Gable reminded that he literally tapped him out in the gauntlet match he won, and while he likely would have been fine defending the title against him anyway, Page talked his way out of an opportunity. It doesn't happen much, but I love when baby faces do that to heels. Plus, Ethan should be earning his title shot. He already got one against Penta, lost. He has not been successful since then. Good.
Yes, good. It's a heel who's going to do heel things, and it lets Chad Gable do babyface things. Definite good.
Tag team championships on the line. MFT defending against Damian Priest and R-Truth. The Tongans cut a nothing walk and talk promo with a really strange backing track to add gravitas to their words. That didn't help them land. However, Haku stepped in, wanting them to prove why they're the mother effing Tongans. War Raiders watched backstage. Truth did a slingshot tope at age 54 and later had the crowd on the palm of his hand, landing all 5 moves of doom off a hot tag for a broken fall. He got a 2.99 on a roll-up moments later, but Tama Tonga landed his swinging neckbreaker, with the champions combining for a high-low called Red Cross to retain the titles, as Priest was previously eliminated ringside. Priest confronted Truth after the bell. It seemed like he was going to turn heel, but he instead lifted up his guy with a hug, promising they would run it back. You're going to roll your eyes. But just as I hate the variety of running forearm finishers, I similarly dislike the variety of high-low finishers. Though to be fair, I find them far more acceptable, and this was executed well. It was a massive improvement over their awful powerbomb-ish finish when they won the titles. The retention was unsurprising. I did expect Shinsuke Nakamura to debut with his partner afterward. That did not happen. Hopefully this ends Priest and Truth as a team. They should remain friends to help Priest from a character and personality standpoint, but they did not do well in this division, even if they deserve credit for at least regularly working and defending the titles that had long been forgotten about before they won them. Boilerplate match that successfully roused the crowd better than I expected. I will give this a good.
This got a "This is awesome" chant.
Yeah.
Like it did. You got to give credit to the guys for that. Here's a fun fact. I can't take credit for this because I saw it on social media, but R-Truth wrestled Haku twice in 2001. That's how long he's been doing this. And Tama Tonga is older now than Haku was then.
It's crazy.
That I don't think they mentioned it. That would have been a really cool thing for them to mention. That R-Truth has wrestled Haku. Like, that was just wild. That was 25 years ago.
Yeah, the gimmick being he wrestled the father and the sons, basically.
Yeah. So, but anyway, shout out to R-Truth. Would have been cool to mention, but solid enough match. The right winners. I know you're not as big on MFT here as I think I am. I think Haku just adds so much to this.
He does.
Just his presence, the giant stick. I love it, man.
That's
not quite.
That's the thing. The entirety of the Haku presence, and I'm not shitting on this. He carries a big stick, and he says "mother effer." I hope he gets paid 6 figures for that because it's awesome.
It's not the same. It's almost a reverse. But remember Paul Ellering with AOP back in the day?
So I got a question about that from a listener. So we can move to that in a second. Give me your grade. I'll ask the question. I'll let you give first answer.
Good.
Brett Charles Malam at Brett_Malam wrote in. He said, I know everyone loves Haku, as do I, but isn't MFT, even with the better name tweak, giving Authors of Pain vibes when they brought in Paul Ellering as their manager? It seems cool, promising, but the gimmick, especially with the look, is dead in the water for him. So what say you?
I loved AOP and Paul Ellering. So I mean, obviously on the main roster, it was not as good as it was in NXT.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked it then. I wanted more Paul Ellering than we got. This one, it's a little bit reversed because like Haku is kind of the focal point as opposed to Paul Ellering being in the back. No, I don't think it's dead in the water. I think so far they're doing a good job. I think Haku, plus it's their dad, so like there's a natural more connection there. Mm-hmm. Is Haku going to be here all the time doing this? I think you need him to. I mean, he's a huge part of this. I don't think it's dead in the water. Do I think the upside and the ceiling is lower? Yes, I do. And in fact, I would say AOP's ceiling was probably higher.
AOP's ceiling was higher. They just were never going to reach it because they could not go in the ring. And they were never booked in a way that you actually gave a shit about them. It worked in NXT because they were able to go against these high-flying teams that made them look incredible. Yeah. On the main roster, they did not stand out the same way. Haku, individually, is more...
To your point, you need a tag team division, and we don't have that here.
Right. Haku individually is far more interesting on screen than Paul Ellering, and in either iteration of Ellering with AOP, he was there menacing. He wore the glove. He pushed his hands together. This guy's, slamming his stick on the ground, saying mother effer, and like, you believe him and you care, right? I also just am more interested in the Tongans than I ever was AOP. So I disagree that it's dead in the water. I do agree that it has a limited ceiling, but we already felt that way with MFT. And, they're the champions. They're believable champions. That's fine. They wrestle well together, Tama and Tala, but they need the division to exist so that they can show it. And there's a new team coming. We'll talk about them in a moment. Fraxium exists. They're the best tag team in the fucking world, and they're not being used. So if you start with this new team and Fraxium, and you add, let's say, one other legitimate team to that brand, then you might actually have something to sink your teeth into. Right now, they're champions of a dead division. Hopefully that changes.
If you had like 3 to 4 good tag teams around like we had 2 years ago, and 2 or 3 of them had another manager who could confront Haku and take a bump from Haku, that would really add to MFT, which is, again, why you need to have a full division to help them and to help everybody. If we just have 3 tag teams, no matter who has the belt, the ceiling is not going to be high.
Right, I like the War Raiders. I do. I'm not excited about War Raiders MFT title match. I'm not excited about Priest and Truth in this division. Like, those teams are just nothing to me. You have to have real teams. Frack seems a real team. This new one, which we're going to talk about right now, seems to be a real team, and it's going to be interesting. Let's move to it. Nakamura received a 3rd promo package threatening MFT and introducing his partner. Now, the name pronounced as it's written, I would say Kyoki, but they said Choch, which sounds like Chooch. And I'm just at a loss. Anyway, the debuting Hiromu Takahashi said he's willing to fight champions, legends, and monsters. The stronger they are, the more fun he has taking them down and diving into madness. Nakamura promised an explosion between strong style and madness. This was like pretty good, fine. I'm normally against debuts or returns in backstage segments or video packages, but considering he does not really speak the language and they're baby faces, this might have been the best way to immediately showcase his color and personality. The name is a derivative of insanity or madness in Japanese, so it's cool enough. The pronunciation in English, though, it's incredibly odd. You're going to have a guy named Choch? It sounds like Chooch, like I just said. So it was a perfectly fine introduction. Nothing super notable. Light good. I'm curious to hear the way they say his name next week.
Yeah, it's a good. I'm not familiar with him. I'm curious how they're going to say the name, because to me it was Kyoki when I was reading it.
Right?
Yeah. But because it's like it's almost Kyoto.
It's Kyoki, and Kyoto is Kyoto. So why wouldn't it hit right?
Right.
Exactly.
That's why. So I don't know what that deal is, but I really liked his energy and charisma. That was important.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who this guy is. Whatever, like that. He made an impression.
That's his whole deal
with his charisma in the vignette.
Yeah,
and that's all you could do. You had to introduce him this way because the crowd wasn't going to know who he was. So I thought this was good.
All right, and that wraps up this week in WWE. Just broke down everything that happened across Raw and SmackDown, and of course, we will do the exact same thing 1 week from now in this very space. The next WWE edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast on Tuesday. Between now and then, we'll be back Wednesday with an NXT and AAA show, ultimate previews for NXT Heatwave and AAA Ola de Calor. On Thursday, we'll be back with your AEW All In ultimate preview. And then on Sunday, we will have instant analysis for all 3 of those shows. Just don't know the order of operations yet. So stay tuned. We will let you know how that will transpire on Sunday. But then, as I said, back next week covering WWE, all of that ahead of Sunday night's main event and the South American and Mexican tour, which should be super interesting as football season gets underway. On the way out, we'll have the Silver King to remind you here at Getting Over.
It's all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review if you do. We will read it live right here on the show. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show. On YouTube, you can listen to the show. You can watch full-length video interviews. Hit the link in our profile. Join our free Slack channel, which is buzzing all week long. Thanks once again to Vintage for joining. For Chris, this is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.